Rolex is one of the most luxurious brands in the world, valued at over $8 billion today. But its story doesn't begin with wealth. It begins with an orphan teenager whose entire inheritance was stolen. Hans Wilsdorf was born in 1881 in Kulmbach, Germany. His parents died when he was only 12, and the life he knew collapsed overnight. His uncle sold the family business and sent Hans and his siblings to a strict boarding school. There, isolated and teased for being different, Hans learned something far more valuable than comfort: discipline, languages, and the habit of relying on no one but himself. He mastered English and French, obsessed over math, and dreamed of traveling the world. A Swiss classmate told him about a place famous for watchmaking, La Chaux de Fonds, and that dream stuck with him. At 19, Hans left Germany and moved alone to Geneva, taking a job at a pearl export company. This was his first lesson in business. You don't need to manufacture something to make money. You need to sell it better than others. Soon, a letter would change his life. A friend offered him a job at one of Switzerland's major watch exporters, Kuno Korten. Hans moved to La Chaux de Fonds instantly. He wound hundreds of pocket watches a day and learned how movements worked, how watches failed, and what made a great one truly great. But after 2 years, his progress stopped. Germany called him for military service. When he returned, he moved to London, working for another watch company and proving himself again. He was now closing deals, expanding sales, and quietly studying how to build a watch brand of his own. In London, he also met his future wife and her brother, Alfred Davis. Hans told him his dream: "I want to build the most reliable wristwatches the world has ever seen. I just need capital." Alfred didn't hesitate. He invested. In 1905, Wilsdorf and Davis was born, the company that would become Rolex. They partnered with Swiss movement manufacturer Hermann Egler, importing precise movements into England and casing them beautifully. Wilsdorf wanted accuracy for everyone, at a price people could afford. But there was a bigger challenge. At the time, wristwatches were a joke, seen as delicate jewelry for women. Men used pocket watches, and watchmakers insisted wristwatches will never be accurate. There isn't enough space for a precise movement. Hans didn't accept that. He traveled all across Europe meeting watchmakers, learning every detail of movement tolerance, dust resistance, water resistance, metals, lubrication, and durability. He believed wristwatches would replace pocket watches permanently. In 1908, after testing hundreds of names, he found one that was short, strong, and pronounced the same in every language: Rolex. But then came disaster. World War I began. Anti-German sentiment grew in England, and the British government imposed a brutal 33% tax on imported watch movements. If Hans stayed, the company would die. So he made the boldest move of his career. He relocated Rolex fully to Switzerland. From here, he focused on what mattered most: innovation. He needed a watch that no one could doubt. A watch that could survive anything: dust, heat, sweat, water, cold. In 1926, Rolex introduced the Oyster, the world's first waterproof wristwatch. Now he needed the world to see it. And Hans Wilsdorf understood marketing better than every competitor. In 1927, a young swimmer named Mercedes Gleitze attempted to cross the freezing English Channel. Hans gave her a Rolex Oyster to wear around her neck. After more than 10 hours in icy water, she nearly collapsed. But the watch came out perfect. Rolex capitalized instantly. Front page ads in the Daily Mail. Store displays showing oysters submerged in fish tanks. People were mesmerized. Rolex became a global name overnight, and Hans didn't stop. 1931, Oyster Perpetual, the world's first waterproof self-winding watch. 1945, Date Just, first automatic watch showing the date. 1956, Day Date, the first watch to show the weekday spelled out. 1953, Submariner, the first deep diving watch reaching 100 meters underwater. Each new model set a new standard. Each one pushed the entire industry forward. But behind the success was tragedy. During World War II, exporting watches became complicated and expensive. Hans's German identity caused backlash and even sabotage attempts. Then in 1944, his wife passed away. To honor her, he created the Wilsdorf Foundation, a charity that would hold all of Rolex after his death. That's why Rolex is still private today. No shareholders, no stock market, no pressure for fast profit. Just quality, legacy, and time. By the 1950s, Rolex wasn't just a watch company. It was a symbol of achievement. And Hans Wilsdorf, the orphan boy who lost everything at 12, became the man who redefined wristwatches for the entire world. He died in 1960, but his philosophy lives on every time someone clasps a Rolex to their wrist. From an orphan with nothing, to the creator of the world's most iconic watch brand. That is the legacy of Hans Wilsdorf. and the empire called Rolex. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more stories.